It was an ordinary morning when my daughter, Emily, was headed to work. She had no idea that today, of all days, would change everything. As she was about to pull out of the driveway, she noticed a woman standing near the entrance of our neighborhood. The woman, dressed in a brightly colored dress, was waving her hands frantically as if trying to flag someone down. It was Karen, the infamous HOA member, known for her overbearing and judgmental attitude towards everyone in the community. Despite Emily's hesitations, she rolled down her window to see what was going on. Karen quickly marched up to the vehicle, her face red with anger. "You're violating HOA rules," Karen shouted. Emily, confused and flustered, tried to explain that she wasn't doing anything wrong. However, Karen wasn't interested in hearing any excuses. She leaned in closer, practically blocking Emily's way out. Karen's accusations grew more absurd with every word. "You're not supposed to park in front of the garage. You're making the neighborhood look untidy," she barked, pointing accusingly at the van parked across from our driveway. Emily, in shock, calmly told Karen that the van was temporarily parked there while she finished a task, but Karen wasn't having it. The HOA rules were her world, and everyone else had to comply. As Karen continued ranting, she stepped in front of the van, effectively blocking Emily from leaving. Emily asked her to step aside, but Karen stood her ground, crossing her arms in defiance. Tensions escalated quickly. Emily could feel her frustration rising. The idea of being stuck in this ridiculous situation was driving her mad, but she knew she needed to stay calm. Just as she began to roll up the window, Karen grabbed her arm, pulling her back into the conversation. Karen's accusations grew more absurd with every word. "You're not supposed to park in front of the garage. You're making the neighborhood look untidy," she barked, pointing accusingly at the van parked across from our driveway. Emily, in shock, calmly told Karen that the van was temporarily parked there while she finished a task, but Karen wasn't having it. The HOA rules were her world, and everyone else had to comply. As Karen continued ranting, she stepped in front of the van, effectively blocking Emily from leaving. Emily asked her to step aside, but Karen stood her ground, crossing her arms in defiance. Tensions escalated quickly. Emily could feel her frustration rising. The idea of being stuck in this ridiculous situation was driving her mad, but she knew she needed to stay calm. Just as she began to roll up the window, Karen grabbed her arm, pulling her back into the conversation. Before Emily could react, Karen pushed the door of the van open, demanding that Emily step out. The act was so sudden and aggressive that Emily felt trapped. She tried to defend herself, but Karen's forceful demeanor had already clouded her judgment. "Get out of the car, now," Karen insisted, not giving her a moment to breathe. Feeling desperate and cornered, Emily decided to step out of the van, hoping that complying would end the confrontation. However, as soon as she opened the door, Karen shoved her back inside, slamming it shut. "You're not going anywhere until I get this issue sorted," Karen declared. Emily's head spun as she realized she was being trapped, physically confined in the van while Karen stood outside, smiling smugly. Inside the van, Emily could feel her heart racing. She had never been in a situation like this before. The more she tried to reason with Karen, the more Karen seemed to escalate her behavior. "You think you can get away with breaking the rules?" Karen taunted. Emily tried to ignore the rising panic in her chest. She had to think of a way out. But her mind was racing and time was slipping away. She glanced at her phone, noting that she was already late for work. Feeling helpless, Emily tried once more to explain herself. She wasn't trying to break any rules. She was simply trying to get to her job. But Karen didn't care. Her obsession with enforcing HOA rules had taken over, and nothing else mattered. The van's small interior felt like a cage. Karen was unrelenting, and the pressure was mounting. Emily felt trapped, both physically and emotionally. Emily's phone buzzed in her pocket. It was her boss calling. With a sinking feeling, she realized she was running out of time. She desperately tried to answer the call, but Karen, seeing the phone, snatched it away. "You're not allowed to take calls while you're in violation of HOA rules," she exclaimed. Emily pleaded with her, "Please, I need to answer this. I'm going to lose my job." But Karen was unmoved. She turned away, holding the phone out of Emily's reach. As time passed, the pressure continued to mount. Emily could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on her. She was stuck in the van with no escape, no way to get out, and now it seemed like she might lose her job because of a petty dispute with Karen. The situation was spiraling out of control. Just when Emily thought she couldn't take it anymore, Karen's voice broke through her thoughts. "You know what? I'm done with you. You're a rule breaker and you're going to pay the consequences." With that, Karen took a step back and made a phone call. Emily could only hear one side of the conversation, but it was enough to know that Karen was calling someone from the HOA demanding that they take action against her. The frustration inside Emily boiled over. This woman was destroying her day and possibly her career over something so insignificant. Desperate to end the situation, Emily pushed against the van's door, her body filled with adrenaline. "I need to get out," she shouted. But Karen stood firmly in her way. With every moment that passed, the weight of Emily's predicament felt more suffocating. She couldn't believe she was stuck in this nightmare. When Karen finally decided to let Emily go, it was too late. Emily rushed out of the van, her hands trembling. She had lost precious time that she couldn't get back. She immediately called her boss, but the damage had already been done. "I'm so sorry, but you're fired," her boss told her, explaining that her tardiness had resulted in a missed deadline. The shock of it all hit Emily like a ton of bricks. She had just lost her job because of Karen's petty actions. As Emily stood outside the van, the weight of the moment settled in. She had been humiliated, trapped, and now her livelihood was on the line. All because Karen had decided that HOA rules were more important than a person's well-being. Emily felt defeated, but in that defeat, she also realized that she couldn't let this woman dictate her life. The fight was far from over. Emily decided that she wouldn't let Karen get away with what had happened. She contacted a lawyer and filed a complaint seeking justice for the distress and harm caused by Karen's actions. She wasn't sure what the outcome would be, but she knew that standing up for herself was the only way forward. The events that had unfolded in just a few short hours were a harsh reminder of how toxic and invasive certain people could be. But Emily was determined to make sure Karen faced the consequences for trapping her in that van and costing her job. As the legal process began, Emily found strength in the support of her friends, family, and even strangers who heard her story. She knew it wasn't just about her job anymore. It was about standing up to bullying and reminding everyone that no one had the right to control or harm another person over something as trivial as neighborhood rules. The fight for justice had only just begun.